Now for the next step we need our hull, our turret assemblies, our superstructure assembly, as well as some glue, 8 nuts M5 size, as well as our pre-cut threaded rods, 4 times M5 by 30 millimeter, 1 M5 by 90 millimeter, 2 M5 by 120 millimeter, and 1 M5 by 143 millimeters. So, just a disclaimer, in this step I will show something that's easier in your print as I recalibrated the parts since I printed mine. So first we want to put our 30 millimeter rods through our holes. If you glued your hole together as one piece, you may skip this. And that's the thing I said. The lower holes are a bit higher in your print. That's why it's easier to get the nuts on. I just have to use some pliers and do it awkwardly. You can just reach them from both ends. So we'll just put the nuts on from both sides and just hand tighten them lightly. It's just to get the rough position of the hole and nothing shifts while we harden the glue. Now, from now on, everything will be the same for me as for you. So we'll push it through. Tighten it lightly. So now we start from the front with the 143 millimeter bar. We put some glue on the end. And then we push it in there as far as it will go. Then we continue with the 120 millimeter ones. Push them straight, otherwise you might break some of your layers and we don't want that. And in the aft section we put in the 90 millimeter bar. The difference here is we put it in this red printed part. They're all roughly the same size now. Then we add back on our turret assemblies. We thread the rods through here. In your case, this will also be a bit easier since I enlarged those holes a few times in the final version. Then we add our superstructure on top. In your print there will also be some chamfers on the bottom side of those to make it slide in easier. And now there's that. So we can now let it sit and let the glue harden. If you want to, we can already put some nuts on. So just for, you don't need them now. That's just that you see how it would be tightened later on. There will be pieces hiding the nuts. We will assemble later. There's also one here and one there. It will be easier to get to later when we have the funnel hiding it, so you can grab it from the top. So now I will let it sit and let the glue cure. The next step will be painting preparations. So we need to take the superstructure as well as the gun assemblies off again. And if you have two halves, you separate those. If you made one whole, you leave it as is. I will later paint them one side at a time. So I will start preparation by taping off the top. First, I will paint the underwater section of the hull with a thicker paint that I will brush on, just to have a real thick layer in case I ram on some rocks or I have it sand on the beach or whatever. I like it more to have a thick coat of paint instead of spray paint. And later I will put some clear coat, since I like my color scheme already, on by spray painting. Because I think just on the top of the surface or the superstructure is not that, doesn't have to be that sturdy. So the maximum waterline of the original model is already marked in your print. That's this line. And I will just tape it and paint it red until this line later on. Make sure that you buy a good tape and not the cheapest stuff, since that doesn't really work. If you want to make it perfect, you have to fill those gaps up with some automotive filler or something. I won't do that now since I don't have the time, because I'm on a schedule. And in my opinion, it doesn't have to be perfect, since after finishing the boat I will weather it, and it will be imperfect anyways, so it will just fit in the image. Now the hull is really curvy, and because of the details it's a bit annoying to tape. Maybe I will take a like a plastic part to press it in this groove. I will also mask this side on the water level. Make sure that the edges of your tape are pressed on tightly. Do the same on the front. As you see, I will only paint it like just okay and not perfect in display model quality, since first of all I'm just building a prototype, and second of all nobody sees it in my model basement and it will only be visible on the water, where it will get damaged anyways. That's perfectly fine if you make a really nice paint job, and if you do, make sure to tag me in pictures or videos. I always love to see my models on the water or on the display stand, especially if they're nicely done. I really appreciate it. also mask those red pieces here, since I don't want them to get any thicker, or the fit on the other side of the hole may be troublesome later on. So just wrap some tape around. I'll also put some masking tape over the TPU gasket. Doesn't have to be perfect. I don't do it anyways, it's just to keep the contact surface clean of paint. It should look like this, or somewhat like this. And now that the masking is done, we can get our paint. No, I won't paint it purple. It should be dark red. I will mix it. Yes, my mixer is an RC boat prop and drive shaft. And in real life, it's much darker than on the video. It's purple red. In German, that's pretty dark red. Looks like the underwater ship of those boats back in the day. So now that the paint is mixed, I'll just set the mixer aside. And I just remembered one more thing in masking. Important. We should put in the rudder to make sure no paint gets in that hole, or not too much. And we should also mask these parts of the drive shaft. Yeah, I nearly forgot the most important thing here. Okay, so now that the masking is really finished, we can get to painting. So now we'll start painting. Use a real thick brush. Just because I think it looks nice when it's a bit rougher on the edges. And it goes way faster. Especially on the, like on here where two pieces match, I will put a thicker coat on. It should be watertight pretty much anyways, since we put a lot of glue in between the parts. But a good amount of paint helps with watertightness anyways. And make sure to only paint in this direction on the edge so I don't squeeze any paint off and have thicker drops of paint hanging around. Same on this side. I will put, I think, 2 or 3 coats on red paint and then later on another 2 coats of clear coat. So there will be a real thick layer of paint. As you already see, you don't have to sand anything, the layer lines disappear completely with the paint, even on the first coat. It's just the seams between the parts, but after 2 or 3 coats you won't see them notably, even, or especially if the boat is weathered later on. It's not necessary, in my opinion. I will use a smaller brush for the face of the boat. Just to get in between all those struts that are in the way. So now we let it dry for a few minutes until it's hard enough to remove the tape. Do the same on the other side. Again, I will start with the small brush with the annoying pieces, like on this side. It's important that you don't put too much paint on those holes, otherwise it will be a pain in the ass to get the alignment bolts in there, or the alignment pins. I will continue on the back side, and here it's important to put a load of paint around those entry points of the hole. I mean, we did put glue in there, but it can not be watertight anyways, so just to make sure that a healthy amount of paint soaks in, yeah, just in those holes where the drive shafts disappear. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, it's only the first coat of paint. I will also paint the rudder. You don't have to, you can. I will just leave one piece here alone on the top, or from the ship's view, the bottom, because I want to turn it to get to each piece above it. Now, since I got every piece over the rudder, I will paint the piece where I hold it also. Later when the paint dries, you can just crack the rudder free again. It's just another layer of water tightness here. So I switch to the fat brush again to make it a bit quicker. Check the tape. I always paint top down, ideally. Do not push too much paint under the tape. If there's too much capillary effects going on and the paint gets sucked upwards, I will paint the water section grey to make the red disappear and make the line clear. But if I'm lucky, I don't have to, and a clear coat will be enough. So there goes the first coat on the first side, and I will see you in a few hours to paint the other side. And I will spare you the watch time of all 5 coats of paint. So we'll just film the first coat of paint all around, and then we'll see you later for the next detailing steps of the boat. So now I flip the boat around and we'll paint the other side. I will start with the rudder. Now it's in a position where I don't have to turn it. And go on from the stern. It's absolutely no shame if the paint is a bit thicker on the keel, since it will be one of the areas that will be hitting the ground more often, especially when reversing. And again, around the drive shaft, a thick coat of paint, so it will pull in the crevasses easily and seal them up. I will switch to my thicker brush again to make the larger surfaces. I can't get to this point here. Now I will switch to pieces. As you see, I often start with a freshly filled or soaked brush on those contact surfaces of the printed pieces. So I soak a lot of paint in the small gap. And layer after layer, this gap will get smaller and completely closed off, and it's watertight and sealed. At the bow, I also like to put a fat coat of paint on, because it will crash like on the shore or on pieces of wood or wherever, and I don't want to chip it easily. So now that the next or the first layer is finished, I will set it aside and we'll paint it again, let's say 2 or 3 times, depending how it turns out. And then I will paint the upper part with a grey line again, so it will look clean. And then we continue with the detailing. The clear coat will come on when the boat is completely finished with all the details, to protect the filament from UV rays and like the layer lines from dirt or whatever getting into them. So we will just paint the underwater ship, maybe the sides in gray if you like. Do whatever detailing paint that you want on the deck details and stuff. And the last step will be a clear coat. Now from the previous step I had some paint bleed under the tape because I didn't use primer. So I will now put some, like a thin layer of gray on the top side of the boat to make the waterline clear again. And it won't be a thick layer, it will just be sporadically, so the whole surface, but I will let the printer material shine through in some cases, like you see here, because I will weather the boat later on. It's a warship after all, it should look used and a bit dirtier, not perfectly clean like it was straight from the dock. So in my case that will be a nice optical fit, because there will be like shades of black and brown and whatever thrown on later in the process. But I won't include that in this tutorial. Maybe I will do another video on weathering, but I'm not a professional in weathering models. I either do it too less and it looks kind of strange, or I completely overdo it and it looks like straight off a cartoon. But as I said, my main point now is to get a clear waterline that looks nice. Or mostly clear. At least not with those large red points seeping through to the upper decks or above the waterline. Here are the 2 pieces meet. I will put a thick layer of paint on. Or I'll start with a fresh drop of paint. And I think for a used look, the layer lines are a really nice additive. So I don't use too much paint to keep them completely out like it would look here. It would be a completely even surface. But as you see here, it looks a bit more like a raw surface, or like smaller pieces of metal with like seams and welds on and stuff. Okay, it's a riveted ship, but never mind. It shouldn't look too even if you weather the boat. Some pieces that would get more wear, I will put nearly no paint on, like here on those degaussing wires or near the corners of the deck. There will be more black paint on later anyways. Or more shading. And the weathering process will take place when the complete boat is finished with all the details. So it looks more like it was made in one piece. And on the sides like those torpedo tubes, there will be darker paint on later anyways, and rust and whatever. So I don't need to get in there with the brush. There's no real plan here, I just do it by feel. It was just important to paint the underwater section in a real nice color, or in a real thick layer, just to make it watertight and safe. And on the top decks and on the hull above the waterline, we can do whatever we want basically. So now that it's done, I will let it dry and later put some paint on some spaces to make it look like a thicker layer of paint. And then I will continue with the details of the boat. So piecing small pieces together again. See you on the next step. Now we start with the detailing of the boat. And the first details we will add are those brackets for the degaussing wires. We need 24 of those in total. And it's basically simple. We just add some glue here, there, and in the middle, and put them roughly a centimeter from the low side of the wire and glue them in place there. Add a tiny amount of glue. Push it on. We'll use a screwdriver to get the glue on the inside of this piece, as it's a bit tiny for this glue nozzle I have. And push it on. I will flip the boat around. Do the same on this side. I have to adjust one of those again because part was sitting on them. Now I set it aside to let the glue dry and continue on the bow section. I'll check the other side again if something shifted. Yes, it did. Align it again nicely. Let the glue cure and continue with the next details. The next step, we need 22 of those cables, which we will place on the degaussing tubes just like that. And we do that for every one of those except for the frontmost one. This will get an extra cable later on. So I just start by adding a small amount of glue again. Put it on just like that. And I repeat that 22 times. Or 21 times. So now I flip it around to the other side. Now the bow section is finished. I'll put it away to let the glue harden. I'll finish the aft section. And again, flip it around. And while we have the boat on the side, I will break loose and remove the rudder again, so we can install this in the next steps, because there's still some paint in there that has to dry. I will also wipe off the excess paint. It hasn't dried yet, and I had it here for a day now, and I will just set it aside and let the stuff dry out that's in there in the rudder housing, and in the next step we can install it once it's completely dried. Now we add some more details. We will start with those wires on both sides of the boat. So flip the boat on its side again, and you can identify the correct orientation, that those thicker circles are again on the main deck, and then this circle, so they will stand over like half a millimeter or so. They will be in parallel with the deck boards, and then this thing will just touch the straight line. I'll just put some glue on, like on the dots. It's way too much since this is a new package of glue, but I will wipe it off. I'll set a bit of glue on every crossing point and on all those end points. It's too much glue, as you see here, with those drops, but I will break them off later with a needle or something. You can always try that. It works usually really well, especially with glue that turns hard when it cures and doesn't stay flexible. So flip it around, do the same on the other side. It's a bit of a different shape. It's shorter since we have two anchors. And on this side you can also see the anchor holes. On the other side I forgot to model it. On this prototype part, in your printed parts, there is an anchor hole. So this will come roughly here. So this wire just slips around those torpedo hatches. Then there's enough space for the anchor. On this side I will give it a bit of a kink because the hull is bent. On the other side it didn't seem to matter when I laid it on, but here it does. So just bend it a bit. Put some glue on again. This time not so much. I hate the fresh packets of glue because they string so much. When they're a week old or so, they stop doing that. I don't have to worry that you hit the portholes. In the real model, those wires were hanging all over the place and covering a lot of portholes also. So now we're done with the sides. So we flip the boat over in this position. And we add all the anchor equipment, like those winches. Tiny drop of glue on. Holy moly, that was a bit lot. Put it on those positions. I will make them symmetrical, otherwise I will hate it every time I see it. Next we put those anchor chain holes on. There are 3 smaller ones and 3 bigger ones. The bigger ones are on the front end, on the bow. The smaller ones are on this back side. So on those 3 holes, it's the small ones. We'll put them on first. I will put some glue on the surface. I think I will take pliers to dip them in glue. Oh, you can't see that. So I put some glue here. I will dip them in so I don't take too much. And now I put them on. The direction should be in position to like to the winch. So I made it completely wrong. Because the anchor chain will run around here and then leave this hole. Do the same on the other side. This time start in the correct direction. So to make the orientation easier, the surface which touched your build plate from the printer will also touch the deck. This one here will face front, since the anchor chain doesn't run around a winch. So this will be in this direction. Then we add the larger ones in front. And this one here is slightly angled towards here. The two at the bow are basically heading straight to here. Now that those details are done, we will go to those guns. We need 10 of those barrels and something to lay under as a, yeah, just so they are in the middle roughly in height of the surface. So I just have some spares lying around from those hull parts, like from the brackets which hold the hull together. I will use them, but you can use anything that's roughly 2 millimeters thick. I will just lay it there, put some glue on the contact surface. Put them on there. You can basically put them in any direction you like, but I would recommend that you choose a direction that the tip of the barrel will not come out of the hull, otherwise it will just catch on things. Okay, so it doesn't work, this thing falls off, so I will cut a small piece off. As I said, it's a spare, doesn't matter. No, I didn't mention, you'll see the barrel has a small half circle cut out in this direction. That's the same diameter as the circle of those base points for the gun. You can also put any gun in a different direction you like, because in the original they are removable individually, so it would just be realistic that they are pointing slightly in different directions. Now, I also recommend that you put the side of the barrel that was facing your print plate inwards, because it will have a not so nice surface. That's what I mean. Now facing the camera is the side that was facing the print plate. If you turn it around, the other sides are nearly perfect, so will face inwards. And the geometry is also modeled in this way, that the worst looking side is either facing inwards or outwards. So just flip it in the direction. That's better. So now the details on the front part of the hull are finished. We'll just put it away. More space. And I will continue with the back side. Now the guns on the front part are facing front, and the guns on the back part are facing backwards. At least that's the configuration I choose. So I have to go looking for some of my guns because I somehow lost some in transfer from my printing room to my office. See you in a minute. So while the glue is curing on those secondary guns, we can start with the anchor chains. We need all the 3 pieces. And first of all, some glue. We will just put some glue in those holes where the anchor chains will go. A fair amount of glue, it has to hold something later. Then we'll take each chain. And put one link of the chain in the drop of glue. Now we have to wait until this glue is cured, so we can wrap the chain around there and put it in there on a bit of tension so it doesn't look completely loose. That's why we have to glue it in there first. So we wait till the glue is cured and proceed with the next preparation step while doing this. So while the glue cures, we will do some preparation work. So we will press all the M5 nuts in their corresponding places. We will need 8 of those red printed parts, 1 of the gray ones. We need the funnel with the hex hole in the bottom, as well as this radar piece with the hex hole in the bottom. And 13, am I right? No, 11 of those M5 nuts. Also helpful is some large pliers, calipers, or a vise, because we need to press it in depending on the tolerance of the printer and on the nominality of the nuts. So, like constructed, they should slide in firmly, even factoring in the printer's tolerances, for example, the Bambu Lab printers. But they slide in barely. You have to be really careful to not break the parts. But it's good, so we don't need glue that will lock up our threads and will sit in there comfortably. Maybe I will hammer this in, so our hammer would be helpful too, if you have one on hand. doesn't work well with a hammer. So I set it in a bit angled. And now I will press it in slowly on the workbench. And it does work, so I have to recalibrate that part. Otherwise, you will do the same. Slide it in, press it in there. So I will recalibrate that piece. And it should fit better for your printed version. I continue with all those grips to join the hole. Yeah, maybe it was just a filament because the other parts work very well and they should have all the same tolerances. So now everything's done except for this funnel. As I said, I will recalibrate the model. So see you on the next step. Now next step we will place the anchor chains completely. So we'll first sort them. So the first chain is the shortest one, which goes to this hole. I will trim it to length. We'll just snap it off. That's perfect. Do the same with this chain and that chain. They will go in these directions respectively. And we want them to be kind of under tension so it looks nice. Those parts are intentionally a bit small so we can press the chain link in there so we don't need any tools to hold it in place. So we again add a good drop of glue in the holes. not around it, in it. Have I mentioned that I hate the new packages of this glue? Absolutely do. Okay, so now I will put that in here. I cut half a chain link and it doesn't matter. It works even that way. Okay, maybe I will make it one link shorter, or half a link. Do the same for the other side. So now they all have a nice tension. We let the glue harden before we proceed. The next step will be adding the anchors. We need 4 of them. That's those. If you look closely, you see that the connection piece to the boat is angled, and the direction it's angled to will be the hull, so it will sit neatly in those holes. We need 2 anchors on this side of the bow, 1 anchor on the other side. On your piece there will be a larger hole here. In my prototype it's missing. And then on the aft of the boat we will also have this hole here. On each of those positions there is an anchor needed. So on the front or on the bow we will do it in 2 steps. First on one side, second on the other side, just so it can harden. You could also add those and put some tape on. In fact, I will do that, so we can do it in 1 step. So I will just put some glue on my anchor, and you can put some glue in the hole which is on your boat. I will put a tiny amount of glue on the places where it connects to the boat. That will be the straight piece here and the flukes, as well as this one simulated chain link here. Then the anchors on the original are... Okay, in fact I will not use the porthole. I will put it there. So the anchors are angled roughly in a 45-degree angle to the bow. So I will take a small strip of my masking tape to hold the anchor in place so I can continue on the other side of the boat. And I will set it away to cure. Continue with that. I think on the stern I will also add some tape to make the anchor stick. So now the anchor is held in place by this piece of tape. That's enough since it only weighs half a gram or so. So now we proceed with the next step. Now the next step we will install the bollards and clamps, which are 4 of each piece. Like 4 of those. And 4 of those. And yes, they look tiny, but in the historical pictures they look tiny compared to the rest of the ship as well. So they're a pretty good fit. I will just show you the positions. I didn't mark them on the deck boards. One clamp sits around here. Do the same on the other side. Again. Look that they're kind of symmetrical. You can orientate on the deck boards pretty well, I'd say. Then we have the front bollards back here. Same on the opposing side. And on the stern we have them here. So the bollards are again pretty far away from the stern. The same again for the other side. And put the clamps on as well. Where's the last one? So next up we will proceed with the railings. We need all of those pieces. Some masking tape, a side cutter, some glue, and an old piece of plastic or whatever to put some glue on. So we will first, one thing, when we join two pieces of railings together, we need to cut one of the pieces right at the post so we can join the other part on there and make it look like it's one go. In fact, we will just start from the bow where we need to bend a piece. So we will start right at the middle. Just one more disclaimer, make sure that you always check that the side which was on the build plate faces inwards, so to make it a nicer appearance on the outside. So I will bend the V shape, make a test fit. Looks pretty okay. Okay, maybe the bend is a bit too tight. It looks better now. So now I will put a drop of glue on my workbench so I can pull this piece through the drop and get a nice thin layer of glue on the whole section. Don't forget the tip. I'll push it on and I will press it on gently from the top because most glues are pressure activated and not only time activated. So when you press them on, they will stick way better. I will put some masking tape on, just some thin strips to hold it in place. Especially to keep the pressure low of the bend, so it doesn't bend away, bend outwards. So then I will add the next piece. I will cut it at the post, make a test fit, and make a note where the next bend shall be. I bend it. Looks good. I pull it through my glue. Don't forget to dip the front. Press it on there. And again, take some masking tape. Maybe it's a good idea to prepare some pieces. And just like that we work our way around the whole ship. There are some shorter pieces. The longer ones are 200 millimeters, the shorter ones are roughly 100 millimeters. And you can just take whatever you see fit. The one build plate you printed should be enough. That's a little over 3 meters of railings. I think 3.4 meters or something. And you should only need 3, if I'm not mistaken, so it should be enough. Otherwise, just print the plate again and you'll have plenty to spare. It's just a few grams of filament. So I cut it again at the post. Make a note to myself where the bend is. It's basically at the next post. Bend it way too much. It's okay. The next bend will be here. Oh, I did it the wrong way around. Build plate. Doesn't matter, just switch the side. Too steep. That's a real bendy piece, this one. Just at the next post there's another bend. And another one. Oh, that's all the bends for this piece. It's a nice zigzag. I'll pour some new glue on my plate. Tap the post. Tap the other side. And install it. So this piece will absolutely need some tape. I'll put some tape on the connection again and on most of the corners. and I will continue this tomorrow. I think you've seen enough. If there's another tricky piece, I will show you. Otherwise, it's just bending and gluing on, bending and gluing on, bending and gluing on. There will also be some railings on the superstructure. That will be the next step in the video. Now for the superstructure railings, I will start again at the front. So make out the middle of the piece, place it with the print bed side facing inwards on here. Take my pliers so I know where I have to bend. It should be kind of symmetrical. I'll put some glue on. And I will push it on. And I will again fix it with some tape. I have to be careful with the wiring on top so you don't break anything. And I will continue my way around, just like that. bit too short. I will again add some tape because I have to tape it basically around the whole gangway I can only finish this side. We'll do the other one once this side has cured. Bend it 1 second too early. Some glue on the contact surfaces. And lift the piece in place. I will again put some tape on to hold it in place. It's a bit tricky over the boats. I shortened this piece so I have a post directly in the corner there. To make it a bit more stable. So I shorten the next part right upon the post. add some tape. Now I can tape the railing to the deck carefully. So don't rip off the ropes. Now, when this stuff is cured, I will add the rest. I won't film that. Well, and then we will proceed with the next step, which will be installing some stuff on the rudder as well as the screws or the propellers. Or for the next step, we will install the props. So we need a wrench fitting to those 3 self-securing nuts that were delivered with the assembly for the drive shafts, and the printed props. You can also use the props that were delivered with your drive shaft assemblies, but I just want to have them as 4-bladed ones as in the original, and not the 3-bladed ones that I have bought. And they also are 2mm, I think, smaller in diameter than the ones which you can buy. So they will sit flat on the ground, and if I put it on a table without a stand, they won't get damaged. So we will install them in this configuration. If you imagine that's the water surface, the outer props will turn to the outside on the top side. The middle one rotates in whichever direction it likes. It doesn't matter. In this case, it's printed turning to the left. So I will start with the middle prop, and I will just push it on. It's a bit of a tighter fit. I already designed a few tens of millimeters as play to the M4 shaft, but you never know. So we'll just have to screw it on. Now you can also, when it's turning, you can put a small screwdriver or something in the gap of the coupling, so it can't turn anymore. Now I adjusted the dog and the groove in the prop. Like, I need something to point, give me a second. Here, this groove and this dog need to be aligned, so I don't destroy the bolt. And you can push it further in. It will also be a tight fit, so there's no wiggle room. Oh, I hit stop recording too early. I screwed it on completely, so just to make it fit with the dog. And I will just repeat the same for the outer props as well. I won't film that, then I show you later how they look installed, and then we continue to the next step. So now all 3 props are installed. And now we have the rotational directions as seen. So right on the hull, this one turns outside, this one turns outside on the hull, this one turns in whatever direction. So now we can go to installing the rudder, greasing the assembly, and so on. Now in the next step, we need our batteries, our ESCs. You may want 2 of your connection bolts for the hull, if you decided to build it in 2 parts. We need some of those battery brackets. The amount depends on the configuration of the batteries you choose, as well as those 2 storage parts for the connection bolts, if you choose to print your boat in 2 halves. Otherwise you don't need them, and maybe you need more of those brackets then. So I will place the ESCs in their holders first, just so I know how long the cables are. So you want to have your batteries as far midships as possible. I will use 3 of those batteries. They're fairly large, because I like to go on long drive with the boats. So I think is ideal would be like 3 in this direction. That would be the most weight midships in my case. So like 3 stacked on top, but it's bullshit with the cables, and I later want to put some low voltage sensors on. So I will have to put them in the bow, just a bit more. And I think I will put them in like this. So as you've seen, those pieces are angled. That's the same angle as the inner wall here. So there's most configurations possible. You can put both together like roughly in this position. Besides each other, they will fit just to the walls. You could put them like this, doesn't matter. I will use them as basically as a bracket for the battery here in the back of the boat. And it may help you to put those bolts in, just so you know how much space you need and that you can get them out later on again. So they need that much space before they drop out. So I will get them in there. And with the angled sides, it will fit again to just touch the outer edges of the battery so it won't slide and shift when the boat is moving. So that will be my rough configuration. Then I can lift this middle battery out easily, and then I can move those two out. So now it comes to the brackets. This one will go on here. This one on here, just on contact to the battery, so it doesn't shift, or it can't shift when the boat moves. I'm not sure yet if I want to put another bracket in to stop it from this movement. I don't think so, otherwise it will be not as easy to get out. But I will see if it will. I don't think it will shift if it's stable in the front and with this battery stable here. And most important, check if all cables reach, and I see they do easily, so I can glue the pieces in place. I will start by those two, and then I work my way in front. I'll push the batteries against each other carefully. There should be no play at all, so they can't shift later on. And then I will add the brackets to the front. Only put glue on the side that touches the hull and not the side that touches the battery. Push it against the battery. Add the other bracket, and now we will let the glue cure. And our components all have their place, except for the receiver, but I think, just to show you, I will drop it basically just here besides the ESCs. It will just fit under the rudder assembly. And then I have it in all the RC components in one place. Next up, we will install the rudder. We will need those 3 plates laying on the deck here, so the deck planks covering this hole, the TPU gasket for this opening, as well as the lower lid for this opening. We will need those 3 discs, the rudder itself, those 2 push rods, 3 bolts M3x10, some glue, some marine grease. I use SKF bearing grease in this case, it's enough. An M3 Allen key, and maybe some pliers. And we also need our receiver, remote control, ESC, and the battery. So we first start with them. I already connected the servo to the receiver off screen and to the ESC. I will power it. Turn on my remote. Now the servo is in 0 position and it's straight. And I will let the remote powered on all the time while we install it. So the servo has some power on, so it doesn't turn easily. So first of all, we will put some grease all around the rudder. Can be a healthy amount, it doesn't have to be a few. The grease is basically what keeps the water out, so we don't need too few of it. Also put some on the larger outer surface here. Then we push the rudder in from the bottom. Next up I will take something, basically I take a screwdriver, because I have this unpractical grease package. And I will just put some grease in here. Can be a fair amount because in there like in here there's a grease chamber in this opening through the hull. Hello, focus. Okay, doesn't want to. So just put like a cubic centimeter or so in there so the hole is covered. The more the merrier. We'll put the grease away for now. So the next part will be this one. You can just drop it in. And you turn it until it locks in with the rudder itself. Now I turn the rudder with my fingers under the boat. You see it's locked in. So now I will drop in one bolt and bolt it down. But pay attention, you don't have to tighten it as far as it goes, because this bolt is also used to adjust how easily the rudder turns. So if I tighten it completely, nothing will turn at all. Okay, perfect. Lost my Allen key. So I suggest you tighten it until it nearly doesn't move anymore, and then you loosen it a bit again. It should move quite easily. Okay, so next we will drop in this piece, this side up. You will put in 2 bolts first. And push out some support material that was stuck in there. I just wipe off my Allen key because the bolts up here should be nice and shiny. Drop it in. I just remembered that I had to turn the piece by 90 degrees. So now the first bolt is tightened. I will turn the rudder until I can reach the other bolt. And tighten that as well. Now I turn the rudder back in the straight position. I will put the bolt in this disc. Now it goes in from on this side. And we put it on the servo straight, this position, and we tighten it down completely. I just see the bolt is pretty rounded. I will take another one, throw that away. That looks better now. Your part will go on the servo way easier than mine, since I fixed the tolerances in the release model already. It's a bit too tight in my prototype here. Perfect. So now the disc is on the servo and it turns. So I will turn this one so the rudder that this hole is a bit more visible, and we take those pieces, clip it in there, clip this in there too. Now they're connected. Turn it in the other direction. And the rudder is installed. Now we can turn off the remote again, as well as disconnect the ESC. And we continue with the next small step, which will be gluing this seal in. We'll just put a nice amount of glue on the one side of it. Now, if you didn't print the TPU pieces, you have to use the foam rubber tape again. Then we drop it in. Push it in the corners. Next we take this piece. It will be on there like so. And I think I misaligned the deck a bit. Yeah. But that's no problem at all. We wanted to have a tight fit, since we don't want to get water to ingress there. So I'll just turn it in. Basically snaps into place. But there will be later on a part that screws on there, so it's not a problem at all. And I will glue the planks on. Make sure you have them in the right direction, so the seams of the planks are on the same level basically. Then I will put something heavy on there as a weight, so the planks glue on there nicely. I'll just grab my pliers, should be enough. And I will see you in the next step. Next I will grease the drive shafts, and for that we need our grease, and it greatly helps to have a syringe or something similar with a bit of PVC tubing attached to the end to fill those cleanly. So I already pulled some grease out of my package directly from the grease tube. And now I will put the tube on there and slowly press the grease in. Don't do it too quickly, otherwise you will make a mess. and you will feel the resistance when no air gets out of the drive shafts anymore. It will be way harder to press something in. Now the grease starts to come out of some openings. So for your information, it was basically, let's say, 8 milliliters that I pressed in there. So I'll pull the tube off again. Put the cover on, the middle one, and I will fill my syringe again. I try to show you. It's a bit tricky. And it's again important that you slowly pull the grease out, because it's so viscous, otherwise you just pull air in. So I filled my syringe again. My tubing again. Put it on the oiler. And press the oil in, or the grease. It was way too easy, so I will put another portion in there. And it's full. Pull the hose off. And the security cover. And continue with the third. Fill my syringe again. Now, if you didn't add those greasing parts, you would have to disassemble the drive shaft. So you open the screw of the coupling, pull the drive shaft out, put the syringe in the hole where the drive shaft goes, and press it in there. It's a bit more messy and annoying later on if you want to re-grease it after a few years or months. So now everything's full. Take this tube off. Put the cap on. And that's it. The drive shafts are now greased and should be watertight and run smoothly. So while I still have the grease here, I will also put some on those surfaces, basically around those openings between the two circles of sealant or of the gaskets, basically, to just help with water tightness. Now for test purposes, I already had the batteries connected, so I'll just push them out. Now, if you don't build the boat in two parts, you completely skip this step. So that's it. Now this connection is also greased to make it watertight, or to make it more watertight. It should also already be without it, but just like double security. There's some debris under the boat. That's why I can't get it aligned right now. There it goes. Now the next step, we will need our 3 ESCs, as well as those 3 parts. You may have already printed them in red or the color you choose. I printed them in PETG since I didn't have ABS anymore. Should not be printed in PLA. It's in contact with the motor, so make it hot. That's the motor supports on the ends. So we have the ones with 1 chamfer, they go on the outer motors, and the one with 2 chamfers goes on the inner motor. They have slightly different heights. So the surface which was touching your build plate will be glued down. That's the direction we put them in. So to prepare, I will just push the cables out of the way. I will start with the middle motor. Just put a small drop of glue on the build plate surface and drop it in just like that. That's a bit tricky to get under there. You just drop. I will maybe get some pliers. Yeah, there are some. Then you lift the motor slightly with your finger and push the part just under the edge of the motor. It's just so not the whole weight of the motor sits on this motor plate. You do the same for the outer motors. Small drop of glue on the build plate surface. Drop it in there. Lift the motor. Push it under. If there's too much resistance, just stop a bit to the outside. If it's way easy or way loose to push it in, maybe push it a bit further in there. That's the whole idea of doing it now when the motors are in. Since sure they have a nominal diameter, but it can vary from producer to producer. The same on the third motor. Nice. So now we take our ESCs. And put them in there. I will already put the cable through here. The battery cables, you don't have to do it if you build the ship in two parts. I built it in two parts to show, but I will use it as one part. So as a whole ship. So I will push the cables through now. So now we will connect the motors. And we have to remember the right motor turns in a different direction than the left and the middle one. So I connect those two, black on blue. And the third one, black on yellow. Remember, we did that because we have the outer screws turning outside and the middle one turning also to the left. So now I kind of plunk those cables under here somewhere. And you can use those cable braces to press the cables a bit under so they don't go loose. Now we have to later watch with the turret assemblies that those braces are not in the path interdicting turret, but the turret assembly should push them out of the way if necessary. So it looks a bit messy, I know, but that's because of 3 ESCs. So now, next step will be connecting the 3 ESCs together. And for that we take our 3 direction splitter cable that we already prepared, where we cut the 2 red wires. Now again, if you did not do that, do it now. We just let the red wire on the middle cable, or on one of the cables, it doesn't really matter, on there. The red wire feeds the 5 volts from the ESC to the receiver, and if all 3 ESCs try to feed this voltage, it would give a short circuit and we would fry everything. So absolutely cut the red wires on 2 of the strings, not on the third one. Alternatively, you can cut the red wires on your ESC connector. Some people do that, but I just recommend a different cable so your ESCs are usable later on for other projects if you need to. So we made sure that we only have 1 red cable. So now we will connect our ESCs. We will put them on our receiver. We'll find a place for the thing later. And we can connect our rudder servo. I need an extension cable for that again. Or in fact, I will put the receiver back here because there's enough space. You could also put it in the front half of the boat. That's really up to you where you like it. It just depends which of your parts needs an extension cable and which not. I already put 2 on for the turret assemblies, so I can lift them out further when I need to get to the ship and can set the deck aside. So basically the electronics are done now. Now for the final detailing steps, we need this piece which will hold the rudder cover, 2 and 3 by 10 bolts, the rear flagpole halves and the bow flagpole halves, as well as some glue and our Allen key or power drill. So we will start by mounting this plate on our aft deck. Don't glue it shut, it has to be removable. So we will just screw it down in the marked holes. So now we will add the rear mast or the rear flagpole. Just add a tiny amount of glue on this half. Add the other half on top of it. Align it well and press it together tightly so we have a first glue bond. That should be enough to directly stick it on. I will basically sit in this hole and lean against the aft railing. So we add a tiny amount of glue on the tip, as well as on the contact surface of the upper railing part. Then we lean it in, make sure it's pretty straight. And we continue with the bow flagpole. So for that we use this part, and we will bend those supporting rods backwards like this. And it should fit in there, so we have to bend it a bit together until it fits. Should sit there like this. So now that it's bent correctly, we will again add some glue to the surface of the two halves and add the back half to the flagpole. Press it together tightly. I will just wipe off some excess glue. Because it was way too much there. I just soak it a bit in paper towel to get it off before it starts to harden. That's fine. Then I add a drop of glue on each of those three ends. Wipe off the excess and position it here in the front. There's three markings on the deck where you can see the positioning of the pole. So now we're done with the final detailing. and can continue to put all the parts of the boat together, and then we're done. Now for the final assembly, we need our hull completed with all the RC components inside, and our turret groups 1 and 2, our superstructure, as well as the 5 connecting pieces for the superstructure. So the 2 funnels with the nuts, as well as this piece with the nut and the radar dish and the cover for this one nut. So we will start by connecting our turret groups to the ESC. Then we would connect the batteries, but I won't do that. No. We drop our turret groups on there. It will be easier in your case. As I said, those long holes have better tolerances in the release model. I drop this one in. Then we add the superstructure, which I had lying around here backwards. This also has larger mounting holes in your case. Just align it on the threaded rods. And it should slide on. Then we add the round turret up front. Just tighten it lightly. Do the same here in the back. Tighten lightly. Then we take this screw for the aft part here. Tighten it again lightly. We'll drop this part on. Basically in this direction. To hide the nut. And last but not least, we add the radar or rangefinder. I have to be a bit careful so we don't destroy our ropes up front. Oh, come on. Yeah, I was not really careful when I cut the threaded rods with the angle grinder. That's why the nuts don't go on so easily. Now the ship is finished and you can put it to sea. Have fun with your model. Thanks for downloading. Like, subscribe, comment, share your thoughts, whatever, all the good stuff. if you finish your boat and have it on the water and happen to post it somewhere, please tag me. It doesn't matter if it's pictures or videos. I'd really love to see the boats in action, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for building, and enjoy your boat.